Right, we're live. Good evening, everybody. Myself and the main man JFT locking in for episode 52 of the No Punches Pulled podcast. Jay, we've got plenty to talk about this week. It was a big week last week, but no point dwelling on the past. Now we've got too much to talk about over the next half an hour or so for the weekly show. How are things your way, my friend?
All good, man. All good. Just getting over the weekend. It was a long one. Somewhat arduous, some of the fights, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. And then we're straight in again. I mean, we've been crying out for this for months, really, for
We have.
consecutive big fight weeks, and we cover MMA as well as boxing. So for us, it's double bubble again. There's another. It seems to have gone under the radar, but this card that's coming up at the weekend for me is probably a stronger card than last week. It hasn't got the marquee fights at the top as such, but implications throughout divisions. So yeah, I'm really excited, man. Looking forward to some good action this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you on the ring card. I think this is the best card since February the 22nd, which we spoke about last week. Better be a Bivol 2, Virgil Ortiz against Madrimov, Dubois. Parker versus Bacoli is meant to be Dubois, that card. You got 4 world championship fights on this one. It's headlined by David Benavidez, defending his WBC light heavyweight championship against Anthony Yarde. Co-main event will be Brian Norman Jr. against Devin Haney. WBO welterweight championship on the line. Then we've got Sam Noakes and Abdullah Mason. That's for the vacant lightweight WBO championship.
Great fight.
That's a great fight. I think that could be fight of the night.
Possibly
vacated that one after his weight woes last time around. And then we've got Bam Rodriguez and Puma Martinez unifying at super flyweight. That's 4 fights down from the main event, which is quite bizarre, really. That's a great fight. Good to see Bam and Puma probably 1 and 2 at Superfly.
Yeah,
going in now. So Puma could pose him some problems. Obviously, we'll get our predictions out tomorrow, but we can break it down fight by fight, or you can give an overall analysis, mate. Which fight you're looking forward to most? Or it's a great card though, top to bottom, isn't it? On Saturday, I'm buzzing for it.
I mean, at the risk of sounding cliched and generic and sitting on the fence, I'm actually, and I've tried prepping for tonight's show and picking out a fight that I favour. I'm just so excited for them all because they've all got something, be it a title, a rivalry, a bit of shit talking. But if I'm honest, the fight that I thought was going to be so one-sided for me now seems to have got closer in the lead up to the fight. Personally, from my standpoint, it's the main event. For some reason, I just think that, and I'm going to say it, styles make fights, but Anthony Yarde can fucking fight, man. For all these flaws in terms of fundamental boxing, and I take the piss out of him with his lion bars in the fridge and all that nonsense, and Tunde Ajayi being his cheerleader and doing the Mayweather pads. I'll have to video it. I've got a 13-year-old daughter that can do the same pads. It's very easy to learn. It's just throwing your hands, a lot of it, But let's don't let that cloud our judgment. Anthony Yarde's here on merit, right? He's fought at the top level. He's come up short, but he's proved more than once that he's better than what we have domestically.
Yeah.
He always pulls his head above the parapet, or he gets a domestic fight and he wins that domestic fight. Now, I know the last one against Arthur was lackluster, but you've got to remember, these two guys have fought each other twice before. Yarde got stopped in the first one, right? Surprisingly. No, sorry. He got edged in the first one and stopped Lindenhoff in the second one.
Yeah.
So, and he knew what was coming in off the potentially. There was talk of him getting a big fight off the back of a win. This was more of a gap filler, not the fight itself, but they needed a fight for the card, didn't they? They needed a couple of names, so they pulled Lindenhoff off the sofa and got Anthony Yarde out of the gym. So that he just went through the motions. I think he did what he needed to do to win. Lindenhoff has recently proved that he's still got it. He's just come as the underdog and snatched the European title and Commonwealth title away from a sitting champion. So for me, mate, it was a long-winded answer, but the main event for me has really got me excited because I think there's there's going to be controversy there. There is going to be surprises in that fight. I'm not
Yeah,
saying, that Yarde is going to go out there and blast through Benavidez, but I think a lot of people are sleeping on Anthony Yarde in this fight. I think his chances are greater than we first gave him.
yeah. I think the evidence is there with Yard. To be fair, isn't it, mate? Look, you hit the nail on the head. We love to say this saying, but it is true. He does flatter to deceive often. But you look at the two fights he lost in his previous world title tilts. Obviously, this is his third effort now for a world title. The Beterbiev fight, which is probably a career best performance, even in defeat.
He wasn't ready for Kovalev, and he wasn't ready for that fight.
And Kovalev, yeah. So,
in Russia, let's not forget though. Sorry to cut you.
Kovalev right? In Russia. It was at home for Beterbiev.
There's not many guys that have gone to Russia and done anything. Probably Enzo Maccarinelli knocking out 75-year-old Roy Jones is about the only away win. A lot of the Russians are usually based in Europe, Germany, that kind of place. Russia's not really a place you go to fight. And, Kovalev boxed 90% of his career outside of Russia, but then went home, and Yarde went into the proverbial lion's den and put on a really good performance.
Yeah, he had him going at points. It just was too raw. It was too raw at the time.
He was too much of a novice. I think that then, and no disrespect to Tundi, but for me, I think that then would have been the right time to move and go to a more technical coach. Because I just think that he's sort of stagnated, probably the wrong word, but he's sort of leveled out. So he's great, but I don't see improvements with Anthony Yarde, and I believe because he was so raw that instead of emphasising the attributes he's got, they could have added to his game and improved him. That's the only downside for me to Anthony Yarde is he's athletic, he punches really well, his basic fundamentals are good, but they've never really been improved on. He just gets himself fit and fights, and it's got him world title shots and it's got him to this level, but I believe that there could have been more to Anthony Yarde. We might see that on Saturday night, early hours of Sunday morning.
Yeah, agreed. Looking at those results, even though they were defeats, that tells me that Yarde should perform in this fight against Benavidez, should be switched on, and should see the threat. Look, I get people's point that Benavidez hasn't got a stoppage win yet at 175, but he's looked very, very good. I thought the way he took over that Morel fight last time out, that was Morel landing some good shots.
Coming up though, wasn't he, Morel? He is coming up. But so is Benavidez.
Yeah. So is Benavidez, yeah. And Yarde's a big guy and he can punch very, very hard. But
could comfortably met Cruiser if he were taller, I believe.
He's super fit, Benavidez. He's very, very fast. So look, it could be a great fight. I'm looking forward to seeing how Devin Haney looks against Brian Norman Jr. Look, his last fight against Ramirez, less said about that, the better. We watched it live, didn't we, in Times Square? It was awful. Brian Norman knocked out Sasaki, big left hand, one punch, face plant, knockout kind of thing. It's a big night for Devin Haney. He's bidding to become a 3-division world champion up at 147 now. Brian Norman Jr. obviously coming in probably as an underdog, but we could either see, in my opinion, Devin Haney winning it on points, canter, or Brian Norman Jr. asking serious questions of him. It just depends on what version of Devin Haney we see. There was a clear evidence in the previous fight against Ramirez that he was on his bike and he didn't really want to be hit. He's going to have to stand and fight a little bit more against Brian Norman, in my opinion. I do make Haney a favourite in the fight, but I'm just hoping it'll be an interesting watch because I just don't want to see 12 rounds of Tom and Jerry, as our mate Turkey calls it.
I think the style that Norman has, I don't believe that Haney will be allowed to do that. Norman's got pretty decent footwork and he sets a lot of traps. Obviously, Haney's going to be wise to that, and he's and he is a thinking fighter. But I think we will see Haney try to back off, but within a couple of rounds, Norman will start to trap him. And we saw that when he gets trapped, Haney, he gets hurt. Ryan Garcia were doing it. He was setting traps for him and he was falling into them and then catching him with a hook as he's trying to exit. I think Norman's feet are going to be quicker, so as he tries to exit, Norman's going to be there with him, so he's going to have to be forced to throw. That's where I start to lean towards Norman, because I think he carries power. I think the power lies with Norman. I think the boxing ability and speed lies with Haney. It took a rocket scientist and Max Kellerman to figure that out. But I'm giving Norman a real chance in this fight. I really like him. I think it's potentially the right time for Haney. I think Haney could have done with another one after Ramirez.
Yeah, the
Rather than
confidence
sitting
isn't
out.
where it was, is it?
He's not the same kid he was. But, whether Ryan Garcia tested positive or not in that fight, steroids don't give you
The
decent
ability to block a
combinations
left hook.
and a proper left hook. Yes, they, add to cardio and whatnot and maybe give you a little bit more power. But Ryan Garcia outboxed Haney in spits of that fight. And that's what gives me confidence to think that Norman is in with a real chance. And it's, it's not the 70-30 I would have said it was 2 years ago. I think it's a lot closer than that. I am edging towards Haney, just on common sense, really. But I think it is a closer fight than a lot of people would have had it a while ago.
Yeah, Jack Cattrall, I think after last Saturday, he's going to be in prime position to fight the winner of that one, according to the WBO ranking. So we'll keep an eye on it. The fight I think could be fight of the night is Abdullah Mason against Sam Noakes. Both guys coming in undefeated, both guys young, hungry, knockout merchants. I think both of them have won all their fights by KO but two. So, in my opinion, someone's getting stopped in that fight. Again, obviously the 21-year-old, I think Abdullah Mason, he's younger than Noakes. He will go in as the favourite. Noakes can really bang, but the only concern I've got is that obviously he fought Mendy. He didn't stop him. No one stops Mendy. But as he moved up the levels, maybe a couple of the fights, he hasn't looked as powerful. But Mason's been dropped in a couple of his been dropped a couple of times in one of his fights not so long ago. So if Noakes can connect, it'll be interesting. But I just think we could get a firefight here. And I genuinely think this could be a lock-in for fight of the night. I think it'd be great.
I mean, I probably tend to agree with you on a majority of what you said there. It would be interesting to see how Noakes fares at this level, but also Abdullah Mason at this level also. Yeah, he's a highly touted prospect, but he's not really fought on such a card in terms of he's high up on the card.
Yeah.
Whereas, excuse me, he has boxed on big cards, but always as like a curtain jerker or a prelims, or he's got what is he, fourth fight on or fourth from the top, or he's the cards is
fight
small
before
anyway.
The co-main. This will be.
There you go. So he's third from the third fight from the end. So it's how does he fare when there's a crowd there and all the lights are on. It's totally different to fighting on, like Ishmael Davis at the weekend. He had his British title fight in a half-empty stadium. It's very different. The noise is different. There's a lot of echoes, and there's no roar of the crowd, which sometimes gives you that, or can be the opposite. It can make you fall and revert into yourself and become introverted. So there's a couple of things. How does Abdullah Mason fare when the bright lights are on, when the pressure's on? And then it's how does Sam Noakes fare when he gets clocked on the chin from Abdullah? Because I think Abdullah Mason, it's really hard. But as you said, he is susceptible and very vulnerable himself. He does leave himself wide open. I think Sam Noakes, if he can get through the first 3 or 4 rounds fairly comfortably and not get hurt, then I think this could be, like you said, fight of the night and anyone's fight. Because I think Sam has the skills to mix it with Mason.
Yeah.
Has Mason got that extra? Because I think they're saying he's better than what we're actually seeing. Mm-hmm. If he turns up and he's better than what we've seen, then
we're going to find out on Saturday. We'll find
out whether he's got it, won't we, on Saturday nights? Because Noakes is going to go in there and test him. And I agree that other than the main event, this could be the fight of the night.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Then last one of the world title fights, and it's Superfly. Another battle of 2 undefeated fighters. Then it'll be unification for Jesse Bam Rodriguez against Fernando Puma Martinez. 22-0 versus 18-0. I think Puma's about 7 or 8 years older than Bam. Obviously, Bam on a tear at the minute.
Everyone's older than Bam. I think Abdullah Mason's probably the only one.
KO'd Estrada, Sonny Edwards, Cafu and Guevara in his last 4 fights. The question on a lot of people's minds will be, can Puma Martinez survive the 12 rounds, maybe rather than he can win? He's had a good few wins over Kazuto Ioka. He's no mug, the Argentine.
Nope.
Martinez. So, it's probably not going to get the attention that the other fights will get, mainly because of it being in the lower weight classes. Bam is carving out a real good career for himself, but ultimately the likes of Abdullah Mason, Devin Haney are probably going to get more headlines in the US.
More press.
Yeah. But this is his first time on a big card, big Riyadh season card. So I'm excited to see him fight in prime time over here.
Yeah, me too. I mean, Bam probably the notoriety over here when he dismantled Woods. I think we knew who we were, but mainstream didn't really. And for as much as they say the superflies don't get the plaudits and the eyes, I think Bam's doing a lot to change that. And look, Sonny Edwards has done more for the lighter weight divisions recently than anybody, and still is doing that, even though he's on the other side of the ropes now. I will never back against Bam. I just think that he has it all. I think if he was 2 or 3 weight divisions above, then he would then start going through the divisions a bit like Crawford. But I just think he's too small. I think he'll probably maybe get to somewhere like featherweight, maybe, because he is really stick thin and could probably do a couple of weight divisions above. I mean, I don't think.
Well, he'll be at bantamweight after this fight, I reckon, unless he wants to
bantam, super bantam, and then feather maybe, towards the tail end. But he's probably got another 10 years at the top level. I can't back against him, but I think, Martinez is here on merit. He's not here. He's not a bought in opponent that's been brought here as a knockover. This is a fight. He's in a dogfight. I know I've just spent 5 minutes blowing smoke up Bam's ass, but I'm not going to put him on a pedestal. He is vulnerable. Sonny Edwards gave him, good rounds, and I think if Sonny had been a bigger puncher himself, we could have seen Bam in a little bit of trouble, because he is vulnerable and susceptible, and does. Estrada
had him on the deck, didn't he, when they fought?
He holds his hands low sometimes, and sort of, do they say he admires his work? He'll hit a nice shot and then leave his lead hand down or have it by his waist. So I think he will have to mind his P's and Q's at the weekend, but I'm leaning towards Bam. I think, but I'm undecided, but I'm favouring Bam in this fight. I think he edges skill, power, and experience at this level. Bam's last 6 or 7 fights have all been world title fights, so I think he's got a little bit more experience at this top level.
Yeah, there's plenty going on. We'll be there for the watch along for those 4 fights on Saturday night. Why would we not be? I think the main event's due about midnight UK time. Obviously UFC on before that. There's quite a bit going on, Jay, in the sport. I was going to say before
Don't know what you're talking about, mate.
I was going to say before that there's boxing on Friday night as well. Harlem Eubank on Channel 5. We'll
give that one a miss. I mean, I'll watch it, but
I'll probably watch it as well, to be fair. But look, it's boxing, of course. We watch
absolutely
anything. Go on then. Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, Friday the 19th of December. I never thought I'd be saying this, mate, but it's not really come as a surprise. It's been spoken about for a while now, hasn't it? But Tank out, Joshua in.
Yeah.
First presser on Friday this week. So it'll be interesting. I'm actually interested to see how Joshua reacts. Does he play kind of the...
He's going to be the cool...
Brush him off, kind of...
humble.
Not rise to Jake, because Jake Paul will be trying to play games with him, and he can shit talk a bit, Jake Paul. So
I think he needs to be... I think this will be the one where you'll see him be very careful. It's, going in there with Anthony Joshua after holding Mike Tyson up for 8 rounds. He's in a different... It's got serious now. It's got serious. It's got real fucking serious.
And might not even be talking about winning the fight. If he can survive, with getting on his feet, or
he's got no... Yeah, he's
not getting absolutely poleaxed, then he's done well.
Yeah, but I don't think he can avoid getting poleaxed. I just don't think he's had long enough fighting. They're wearing 10-ounce gloves, for goodness sake. I've watched Joshua live, right? 4 or 5, maybe 6
I've
times
watched him live once.
on
Who
the
did he
come up.
fight? Sprott, I think. Was it Michael Sprott?
I can't remember. A Brazilian kid. He was on a couple, 4 or 5 crawler undercards when they were taking him around the UK.
Yeah.
And there's only one other fighter I've ever heard a punch at ringside and felt it. And I know that's bullshit. You can't actually feel it, but you feel a sound. You know, when you get that sense of
Yeah.
feeling a sound. And I saw Deontay Wilder when I was ringside when he beat Audley Harrison.
Yeah.
And that was very similar, but Joshua's a lot more technical. If he clumps Jake, even with his gloves up, mate, he's going to knock him over.
Yeah.
Jake Paul, the best thing he can do is just take a standing count and turn it in. Because what's worrying me about this, right, is it's in Florida, so they'll sanction it, as we spoke about off camera, right?
It'll
Some
happen.
of the fights they've sanctioned are ridiculous, okay? It shouldn't be sanctioned in the grand scheme of things. It shouldn't, because Jake Paul is going up against a former 2-time heavyweight champion of the world that's still active, still holds a British Boxing Board of Control license, right? He's been talked about fighting soon anyway, so he was semi in camp, let's just say, right? All right, he's at the tail end of his career, but he's still active, right? And he's still a world-class heavyweight against an average cruiserweight. That's what we have to, that's the truth, because he's lost one fight to a career light heavyweight at cruiserweight in Tommy Fury, who, let's be real, if Tommy Fury's surname was Smith, none of us would know who he is.
Yeah.
It's that simple, right? You know, I know he's done his own thing and he went in celebrity. And why did he end up in there? Because his last name's Fury, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't box for shit. I'm telling you now, give me 12 weeks and I would box Tommy Fury. And I'm 48 years old and I've had no professional experience. No, I'm being serious, because he'd beat me. I know that. He would beat me. But I bet I could give him rounds, right? And that's the kind of level that's beat Jake Paul. Somebody that I, as a 48, nearly 50-year-old guy, is saying, give me 12 weeks and I'd box one of his opponents. I don't think I'd box Jake Paul. I'd need longer than 12 weeks. But he doesn't frighten me. And I'm 50 nearly, right?
I wonder what he'll think when the referees brought them together and the touch gloves. I wonder what will be running through his head
if it gets that far.
Yeah.
Because I said to you, didn't I, off camera, that I wouldn't be surprised if this is a cash grab for momentum. So the fight behind closed doors, these two have said, look, Joshua, let's pretend that you're going to fight me. We'll build it up. Either Joshua pulls out with an injury, and I'll give you 50 million for letting me call you a pussy and show me the X-rays and da 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 da. There's enough money in. Just look out. We're talking about it, for God's sake. It's been all over my social media feeds for 2 days. My son's ringing me. People at work that don't talk about fighting. It's that big, right? But Anthony Joshua's not an idiot, and they're talking about ruining his legacy. I'm gonna sound like a hater now, but what is Anthony Joshua's legacy? For me, it's bringing boxing to the masses. In terms of his fights, if you look at it properly, his legacy's not all that. It's what he did for British boxing that is a legacy that I feel he will leave. And that's not being a hater. You know, he's had some great fights, but if you're looking at them properly, he got gifted the IBF against Charles Martin. He boxed Klitschko that was 42, and Tyson Fury had already took the best of him. He got beat by Usyk twice. He's lost badly against Daniel Dubois. He froze against Ruiz and got absolutely flatlined. So his legacy for me is about more what he's done for the sport than what he's done in the sport. They talk about the stadium fights. He's 4 or 5. Carl Froch and George Grove started that trend. He took the mantle and took it exponential. So they're talking about ruining his legacy. Joshua does not give a shit. He's doing this for pure money.
As Eddie Hearn says, you can't eat legacy.
Exactly. But I would not be surprised if it's a facade and we don't actually see the actual physical fight. I think somebody will step in and fight either Joshua or Jake Paul. I think there's going to be a twist It just seems to have come together too smooth for me. There was rumblings, then it's announced, and here we are, 19th of December. Jake Paul's the A side. Joshua's just getting carried along. It just feels like he's doing him a favour. That's what it feels like, because if you talk to these two guys, there's no way that Jake Paul thinks in his own head. I know he's delusional, but he knows he can't beat Anthony Joshua. There's
Nah.
not Joshua could keep
Or
his
is
hands
that
by his
desperate
side
and craving that much attention or respect
that
or
he's
whatever
willing to
from
risk his life. Because
well,
I think
that's essentially what he's doing.
Do you think Joshua could let him give him a shot and take it?
Do you know what? This is what I wanted to bring up before we wrap up. We all watched what Anthony Joshua did to Francis Ngannou, and Francis Ngannou, in most people's opinions, will beat Jake Paul. I think that's. I mean, some people might pick Jake Paul, but I think majority of people would say Ngannou would beat Jake Paul based on his accolades, based on Jake Paul's accolades. Joshua went in and took Francis Ngannou incredibly seriously, something that Tyson Fury didn't do, which maybe led Joshua to do it more so. And he dealt with Francis Ngannou. He put Ngannou to sleep. Like,
absolutely, just dealt with him. You could see that Joshua went in there with the single goal of ending this fight as quick as possible.
Yeah,
deal with it.
One thing about Joshua, he might not be
he's a killer.
He prepares diligently for every fight. And he will take Jake Paul just as seriously as he would have taken Ngannou or, Dubois, whoever else he's fought in his recent fights. So from his side, he I don't think he has a gear where, for example, the Jake Paul Mike Tyson thing where he carried him through the last few rounds because he didn't want to knock him out essentially. AJ's not cut from that club. AJ will be coming to seek and destroy. So look, I mean,
do you not believe there's any NDAs being signed?
Well, look, I was going to say I don't believe that because Joshua has too much to lose and he has too much money. But one thing I will say is that I'll speak on behalf of both of us here. I just hope to God for the sport of boxing's health that and I'll say Jake Paul, but both men, if he did land a Hail Mary, but I just hope that nothing drastic happens because that's going to cause,
Well, it'll ruin the sport if and I don't want to dwell on the negatives, but look, we have to be realistic that it's dangerous as it is, right? I live every day knowing that my baby brother's life was destroyed. Boxing made and broke my baby brother, right? And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It gave him some of the best experiences he's ever had, some of the best experiences I've ever had. He did things that, I could only dream of. And to see him now broken and ruined by boxing, suffered a serious, he's got a head injury and it affects him every day. So I speak from experience, knowing what both sides of the sport. I've seen him box on Ricky Hatton undercards in the Thomas and Mack Center in Vegas to, having to live in assisted sheltered housing because he can't look after himself, and so I've seen the highs and the lows. So I speak from the heart, and I know you do as well, mate. I didn't mean that like, your opinion's not as valid as mine, because it is. But it frightens me. I'm not being flippant about it when, this is what makes me think that the powers that be at some point are going to step in and go, whoa, hold on a minute. This is not Logan versus
Wild West
Floyd.
Out there, isn't it?
Well, it's not Logan. I think Jake's thinking of it like, well, Logan fought Floyd, right? Yeah. Floyd's a career 147, and Logan was, I don't know, a cruiser, 190, 180, 185. It's not the same. Floyd Mayweather was never a puncher anyway, right? Even if you're the same weight as him, coming through at feather and super feather, he were knocking people out. He had brittle hands. It's not the same. Anthony Joshua is a calculated, athletic killer, and if it goes wrong, God forbid, right?
That's professional boxing fight. This one, isn't it? It's yes, it's only 8 rounds, 8 threes, whatever, but this is a pro fight.
It's a sanctioned. It hasn't been sanctioned yet, but it will be sanctioned very soon. And I will echo your sentiments that we both hope that both men come out of this unscathed. Right? I know I'm saying I hope Joshua does this and I hope Joshua does that. Yeah, I hope he flattens Jake Paul, but I hope that after taking oxygen and sitting on his stool for 30 seconds, is well enough to stand up and there's no long-term damage. Because that's the problem here. We could see someone get seriously... Both sides, Jake Paul could go in there, slip, check up, knock Anthony Joshua, because we've seen him be vulnerable.
But that's the thing. Joshua's legacy is tarnished if he gets knocked out. He really is
done. He is done out here. Give your Olympic medal
and
that you didn't
yeah.
deserve to win back.
Yeah,
and
you well, look, it's not going to happen. Does it go past the round?
Yes, I think it goes 3 or 4. I think Joshua's going to take the piss with him. I think he's going to toy with him. I know we've just said he's a calculated killer and da-da-da-da-da. I think he's going to want to prove a point, like he did with Ngannou. He sort of pawed with Ngannou, felt him, and then wallop. But I think he's going to make an example of Jake Paul. I think he's going to play with him. I think he's going to hit him at 20%, take a few on the gloves. I think he'll mess with him for a few rounds. Maybe give Jake some fake confidence if it happens. And then when he's had enough and he's proved his point, he'll knock him out. But I think it might end up being a body spar. It's something as mental as that. I'm not saying that
Jake Paul didn't knock out 50-year-old Anderson Silva. He didn't knock out Nate Diaz, who has got a good chin, but come on. You know, you're talking about him.
Nate's washed. Yeah, he's only knocked out what? Nate Campbell, Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren.
And Mike Perry.
Yeah. Mike Perry's a lunatic who just followed him around.
It's one of them things, mate, isn't it? Look, at the end of the day, there's no point saying we won't. We both have Netflix memberships. I'll tune in and, you know, it's the clown show. It's you know, one of them things, but similar to the Mike Tyson thing, you know, I don't think we've really slagged it off or anything. I understand why people slag it off. I understand why Anthony Joshua has taken it. So, look, it's one of them things. It'll be forgotten about by this time next year. No one will talk about it again, and both men are going to clean up. And ultimately, it's monetization of what they've got. So look, fair play, go and do it.
Yeah, we'd all do it. We'd all do it as much as we pull it. You know, someone offered me enough dough, mate. I've just offered to fight flipping. Who did I? I've just offered to fight someone. Tommy Fury. Give me 12 weeks, mate. I'm there. KSI, any of yous. I just won't fight Darren Till because I wouldn't fancy getting not slept. But I think I could manipulate my way around the ring and not get slept. 6-2s or whatever, 6-3s. 12 weeks, baby.
How fast can you run? Right on that note, Tommy Fury, KSI, if you're watching, let's get you in with JFT. Appreciate your time as always, my friend.
Thank you, bro.
That's joined us. Thanking you. We'll be back with our picks for the ring card tomorrow. And any MMA fans, JFT on Thursday for Sam and Jay Talk MMA for UFC Qatar, and of course the watch alongs on Saturday night. Any closing words, my man?
Just as always, thanks for joining us. Follow SW Fight Hub's YouTube channel, Jay's Fight Talk on all socials. We will see you